Hey guys, so I'm just going to talk through quickly the information that OnRamp set out about the changes to our calendar and to our schedule. So I'm going to flip to screen view and go through the information that we have. So this is, I don't know if it's already been sent to you or if it will be, but this is the information that you guys will get. So in terms of your problem sets that you'll be taking from home, you'll be required to read and acknowledge the honor code before taking the assessment. Nothing else should be open on your computer while testing, no other tabs or no other files. You have to complete the assignments on your own, and course staff will be actively monitoring Canvas logs for all students, so knowing what time and also showing your browser's activity during the exams. So keep that in mind. That's just to protect test security. This is kind of the general plan. So problem set 8 we had already taken. We had also taken problem set AR. So this was the last unit. This was the 2-sample independent and dependent t-testing. So we had already taken both of those assessments, but because there were some students or some schools that had not finished taking problem set AR, there's schools that were kind of on different overall calendars. There were some students that didn't take problem set part R, problem set 8 part R. So they had to kind of adjust that because they realized that not all students will have access to a computer that they could use RStudio on. So because of that, they created an alternative assessment that doesn't require students to use RStudio, but just utilizes their understanding of output from R. So that's the alternative assessment for people who didn't take it, but because that's a different test, to make it fair, they did open up the opportunity that every student has the opportunity to take this alternate version of problem set 8R if you want to. So even you guys have already taken the original problem set 8R, but if you weren't happy with your grade, if you did worse than you think you would normally, you do have the option to take this alternative version, and then whichever score is higher is kept for your grade. So really there's no, unless you got 30 out of 30 or if you got 28 out of 30 on problem set 8R and you're happy with that, it's not going to hurt you to take this. So I would suggest that anybody who's even moderately unhappy with your 8R problem set grade to work with me or talk with me about scheduling this. I'm going to talk about that a little bit later about scheduling tests and whatnot, but I just wanted to point that out. So even though we've already taken problem set 8R, you guys do have that opportunity to take this alternative version and potentially get a higher score. So there's that. Problem set 9, no changes have been made to the actual assessment, just you'll be taking it as from home, and those are the dates. We'll talk a little bit later about kind of my plan for that. And then you will not take problem set 9 part R. You will not take problem set 10 or problem set 10 part R. So that means we officially do not have to learn unit 10, and we officially do not have to learn the R part of unit 9, which is the chi-squared that we've already kind of talked about. So that does free things up a little bit. It's still good information to know, and so I did have a video up on chi-squared in RStudio that I'm going to keep up. Doing the pre-lab and the labs and the R homework, all of that is good things to know for this unit, especially if you plan on taking the optional lab exam, which I'll talk about in a minute. But in terms of Unit 10, none of that will be assessed at all for the rest of the semester, so that's not something that we have to learn. I will probably post some videos teaching that for those of you that care, that want to know it, because it is an expectation in this course. So if you were to take a course that has a prereq of statistics, those would be things you'd want to know, so I will put up videos about them eventually, but it will probably not be part of your high school grade, and it definitely won't be part of your college grade. Exam 3 is the cumulative stuff that goes from Unit 7 to, originally it went from 7 to 10, but since we're not learning Unit 10, it'll only be covering Unit 7, 8, and 9, which is basically all of our inference units. So t-test, 2-sample t-test, independent or dependent, and then chi-square will be on that test, and they give us the dates for that. Again, we'll talk later about kind of the general schedule that I have for that in my mind. There will be no lab exam 3. And again, a lot of the R stuff is just because they know not everyone has access to R, and it's going to be really hard to test that. The optional final exam and optional lab exam. So for this, I'm going to switch real quick because we didn't get a chance to talk about this in class. So I'm going to switch, oops, that's me, to this is the college syllabus. This is actually in your college course in Canvas. If you want to look at it, it's under course documents. But this kind of explains what the bonus lab exam and bonus regular exam or optional exam are. So the bonus lab exam would replace a lab exam that you didn't do well on. So for example, we had 2 lab exams. So the lab exams are the ones that were over multiple units. So we had a lab exam 1 and then we had a lab exam 2. So a lot of you did way worse, not very good at all on lab exam 2. So you would have the option to take this bonus final lab exam, which that stuff could cover anything from unit 1 all the way up to unit 9, and probably kind of a combination of several units. And if you did better on that lab exam than you did on lab exam 2, for example, then that grade would be replaced. So that is the benefit of taking bonus final lab exam. Again, it can't hurt you. So if you do worse on it, then it's not going to go in. But if you do better on it, then one of your lab exam grades, it would replace. And then the optional final exam, there's 2 reasons you might take that one. So that's not just going to replace, that would be either if you missed an exam, which none of you did, or it could put you on the upgrade policy. So this is kind of a weird thing. Again, we hadn't really talked about it. The original grading system for this course is if you, in order to get an A in the course, you need a 93%. So it's not 90% like it is in high school. To get a B plus, you need an 88%. To get a B, you need an 83%, etc. The upgrade policy is a little more lenient. The upgrade policy means if you want an A, you only need 90%. But in order to get onto that upgrade policy, you have to take the optional final exam and get at least a 75% on it. So that would be the benefit. So the people, and we'll kind of look at that when we get closer and once we know what your final grades and points are. But if you're at this point where you have like a 91%, which would normally in high school that would be an A, but in this course that puts you at technically a B because you needed at least a 93% for an A. So if you're at a 91% and you really want your transcript to say A, then you could take the optional final exam, and if you get at least 75 on it or better, then you now have an A because you're on the upgrade policy, and your 91% puts you within that A range. So that is what the optional final exam will do for you. Both of those, the optional bonus lab exam and the optional final exam, are both, as they are known as, they are optional. So this calendar just tells us when the dates are for those. They're the same dates as for exam 3. These are optional. And then the optional lab exam will not require you to work in RStudio, but will utilize your understanding of output from RStudio. So it's not something you'll have to take in R. You're just going to have to know a lot about R in order to do that. And then Unit 10 is not assessed on either of those. So that's the couple of things. Be on the lookout. I'm going to talk in a bit about in a couple days probably I'll put out some polls. So for those of you that want to take the alternate problem set 8R, and then I'm going to put out a poll for when we want to take problem set 9. So my thought is 8R has to be done by next week. So I'm probably thinking for that one, beginning of next week is probably when we'll try to schedule that. So I'll put out a poll for some options. And then problem set 9, we've got a little ways, but I don't want to push it too far. We'll kind of see how things go this week and see what questions you guys have had on the reading quiz and on the homework and then on the Unit 9 review that I'll put out in a bit. But my goal is to probably have this done either at the end of next week or the beginning of the week after. So again, I'll put out a poll with some dates so we can figure out a good time that works for everyone to take that test. So yeah, that is all of that information. I know that was a lot of me just kind of blabbing on about things, so hopefully you listened to the whole thing. But I just wanted to make sure you had that information and that I explained it fully. If you have more questions, please email me and let me know so that chances are a lot of people have the same question, so I'd love to be able to answer it for everyone. Like I said, be on the lookout for some polls and yeah, work on Reading Quiz 17 and Homework 17 this week. Make sure you let me know if you have questions that you really truly understand what's going on. And then also be on the lookout for Unit 9 review. We'll probably go up tomorrow or Wednesday. So hope you guys are having a good week. I'll see you later.